Welcome to 2025 and the first episode of Hoda's Career Info for the year. I'm your host, Hoda Kilani, career and academic coach. Coaching is all about storytelling, helping you to envision and tell your story your way. This series is about sharing stories of inspiring career people from across the globe. I hope their stories motivate you to envision your career story, discover your road to success, or recast your career path. Most importantly, I hope that you love these career stories as much as I do. Our guest today is UK-based career development professional, mentor, educator, and founder of What's Your Strength, Katherine Jennick.
Look, everybody, we don't just sit around talking about jobs all day. Like, we're so much more than that. That every time I have been courageous and tried something new and nudged into that stretch zone, as you called it, what happens is that my comfort zone becomes bigger. And my confidence then starts to build at the same time. We have more strengths and we've achieved more than I think sometimes we give ourselves credit for. And I think it's important that we just stop, look back, take stock, and celebrate what we've achieved.
Welcome to Hoda's Career Info, your career program where guests from across the globe share career tips and personal stories to help you successfully navigate your career. Watch, listen, and learn. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and follow Hoda Kilani on social media for more career info. More importantly, make sure you have that very important career conversation with a career professional. Our guest today, Katherine Jennick, is a UK-based career development professional, mentor, and educator. In 2019, Katherine founded What's Your Strength, which started as a card activity to empower teenagers and has since evolved into a series of award-winning resources for all ages that are used in 16 countries. Katherine's innovative work has been recognized by the Department of Education, and she has been shortlisted for CDI Careers Adviser of the Year, as well as 2 Business Startup Awards. Her resources are recommended by National Careers Week, the CDI, and the Careers and Enterprise Company. Katherine also offers one-on-one career guidance for young people and delivers collaborative creative workshops to a variety of audiences. She is the co-architect of the hashtag So Much More Than Talking About Jobs, the campaign, and a passionate advocate for the career development sector. Join me, and together, let's talk strength with career development influencer Katherine Jennick. Welcome, Katherine Jennick, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's a privilege to be asked. Thank you so much.
This is such an important day for me as we prepped for in the new year and try to figure out resolutions. And for you, the first question I have is a question I ask everybody who joins the program. If I were to ask you to choose one term, it could be more than one word that describes the work that you do, what would it be and how would you define it?
So when I was thinking about this question, there was one word that just jumped out immediately, and that was empowerment. When I was thinking about all of the work I do, whether it's the resources I create, whether it's one-to-one guidance with young people, or delivering workshops to a whole variety of audiences, it's always about empowerment. And it's really coming from that place of I have such a passion for people. And I think for me, empowerment is all about enabling people to go on that sort of sense, sort of that journey of that self-discovery and recognizing their own brilliance for themselves so they can celebrate exactly who they are, celebrate their uniqueness, and embrace their authentic self exactly as they are.
How does empowerment for you? How would you define it for yourself?
For myself, I would say authenticity, and becoming comfortable with my authentic self. And I think that's something that I've done more so the older I've got. And I've become, the more authentic I am, the more empowered I feel.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for taking this one on. The next question, Catherine, is about your personal story. I like the audience to get to know you, and so that when they reach out to you, they know who Catherine is. So, can you share your personal story with us and perhaps embed with it a lesson that you learned along the way?
Yeah. Gosh, this was really hard to think about actually. Partly actually because one of the things you'll sort of learn, I'm sure, throughout this conversation is that I'm not necessarily the most confident person in the world. I think people think that I am, but I'm not. And having a question about myself was really hard because I find it much easier to sort of hide behind the product I've created or the business that I've got. And I talk about that a lot more easily. But when it's a story about myself, I found it really hard. And I spent quite a lot of time sort of pondering it. Um, and also, like with anybody, our career journeys, our life journeys are full of twists and turns. Of course, there's so many stories that I could have picked. Um, but one I thought I would choose that I think sort of shows the sort of rediscovery of myself in recent years and the importance of having really positive people around me. And I think that's an important message. So the story is sort of spans the last sort of decade. So if I go back about 10 years ago, I was working in careers. I would a career sector I absolutely love. But at the time I was struggling. I had very young children at the time and I was working part-time and all the balancing act that that brings with it. And I'd changed jobs within a company. And I found myself in quite a difficult situation with a new boss. The relationship between us was really hard and it got increasingly more difficult. And it got to the point where I did feel like I was being bullied and I was undervalued, and my confidence was absolutely rock bottom to the extent that I just thought I can't do this job anymore. I just don't believe that I can do it anymore. So I took a complete leap of faith and took redundancy with the intention at that time to completely retrain, which is what I did. I took some time out to reflect on what I wanted, and I retrained completely in massage therapy, which I adored. Actually, I had a wonderful time, a few years retraining, and starting my own business. So I was in completely new territory, never run a business before in a completely new sector. And I did love it. But I kept my finger in careers work, partly to fund the career change, but also just to kind of keep it going along the side. And through support with the people around me and people, my nearest and dearest, my confidence started to slowly build back again. And I realized in that sort of period of time, which I gave myself to sort of reflect on who I am and what I want, I completely fell back in love with careers work. And I realized I was leaving behind something that I really loved and that I was good at. And I realized that I was really good at it and I was throwing it away. So I decided to sort of pivot and have the courage to go back on myself and go back into careers work. And at the same time, I had the idea for, well, the first seed of the idea for What's Your Strength was starting to form in my mind at that point. And I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to create this idea into reality on my own. So that was when I reached out to people. So it all started with the incredible Leanne Hamley, who I'm sure you're probably aware of, giving me the little bit of a push to take my idea seriously. And then my friends, my family, my amazing professional network on LinkedIn all just sort of came out in force to encourage me and guide me. And like I said, give me that little bit of a push to get out my comfort zone sometimes, to help me turn my sort of idea into a reality. And I suppose the message really is to have that courage to try new things, but also to follow your instincts and trust your instincts, but to surround yourself with people who will believe in you and will support you. And that in itself will make you feel more courageous when you know that you've got that support network around you.
A lovely message and lovely story. And I want to thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone and sharing it with us. I truly appreciate it. It's again about giving examples to others how nothing comes easy. We really have to step out of comfort zone. And I did hear some reflection there where you went, you left the career field and went back to it. So definitely lots of messages embedded within your story. I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, it was
I
quite
hope you had fun.
cathartic actually. Yeah, no, it was quite. I took some time talking to my husband about it actually, and it was interesting because his reflections were that I always find that sort of thing really hard when it's about myself, but it's good for me to do it. And I think, and again, I'm a real believer in self-reflection, and I think it's important that we do it on a regular basis. I think because we evolve and we change, so it's not a case of just reflecting once and going, "No, this is who I am, and I'm going to stay in this way forever," because we change, don't we? And I think it's important that we continually reflect on who we have been and who we're becoming.
I love this message and appreciate it. We'll put you in your comfort zone, I think, with the next question, which is talking about the hashtag. So much more than talking about jobs. This is how you and I met on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a famous hashtag. I want to become, I wanted to become the influencer in our field, and you and Bella Doswell are doing that. So I have interviewed Bella Doswell, your partner in crime, and now it's
Yeah.
your turn to tell us about it. What prompted you to coin the hashtag so much more than talking about jobs?
Well, it's interesting you use the word influencer there, and I think I've almost become an accidental influencer. It wasn't necessarily my intention, but I'm kind of here now. But I think I have always been a bit of a rebel at heart. Um, and I like to sort of see myself as somewhat of a positive disruptor for change. Like I don't go around sort of disrupting things for the sake of it, but I do think sometimes shaking things up a little bit is what's needed, and taking action rather than just sitting and talking. I think there's got to become a point where you do and you take action. And so in terms of the hashtag, really what it was my way of tackling the misconceptions that I could see that people had about what career professionals do. And in fact, I was once told by somebody that I was working with who wasn't a careers professional, they were working in the same sort of school I was working in at the time, told me that my job was money for old rope. And at the time, it really got under my skin. It really bothered me. But I started to sort of again reflect on it, and I thought, well, actually, people outside the career sector don't necessarily know what it is that we do. They don't realize the life-changing work that CDPs do and the depth and breadth of the skills that we have as a workforce. But I thought, well, who's better to change that narrative than us? I'm not going to just sit here and grumble about the fact that people don't understand what we do. I can do something about it, and I can channel that frustration into some positive change. So that was my intention. So what I started to do was, so I sort of coined the hashtag just one day. I can't remember the day I first used it, but it was just that sort of wanting to shout from the rooftop saying, look, everybody, we don't just sit around talking about jobs all day. Like we're so much more than that. So I just started to use the hashtag on my own LinkedIn posts, if it was maybe a story about something I'd done that day, or other people's posts who were sharing maybe an impact story or something that really showcased the amazing work that they'd done. So I started to comment on their posts using the hashtag. And I've said it before, and I'll say it many times again, that the CDPs that I know, and many of whom have become really close friends now, are some of the most passionate and dedicated and innovative people I know. So the hashtag ultimately was a celebration of that. It's a celebration of these amazing people that I see and who inspire me all the time. So it was my little way in my little corner of the UK just to start to change that narrative. And that's all it was to start with, was just my way of saying, hey, I see you, I hear you. You are so much more than talking about jobs.
And I love that you want us all to use it. So even me, when I do any of my posts talk about the work I do, you welcome us using it. So it's not like your hashtag and you're attached to
Not
it. I love.
Not at all. And I mean, you've mentioned Bella. She's sort of my partner in crime. We didn't even know each other before the hashtag, well, before I started using it, and our worlds collided and she found out about it and she turned the hashtag into the most incredible idea to try and get it onto LinkedIn as like a flash mob. And that's how it ended up, going into the world on a much wider basis. And we've said right from the start, this is not our hashtag. It's not our campaign. It's not our movement. It belongs to the careers world globally. And it just makes my heart sing every time I see it being used by somebody else, celebrating either their own work or somebody in their team or one of their colleagues. I just think, yes, this is exactly what this is about. It's about celebrating each other's work and cheerleading each other along. So I love the fact other people are now using it as widely as they are.
And you mentioned in your response the word flash mob. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about it? And because now the hashtag is internationally used, so you have gone
Yeah.
way beyond the UK. I'm in
Yeah.
Canada, in Australia, and really all across the world. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about the flash mob.
When Bella first connected with me through a mutual connection, and she said, I've come across your hashtag and I love it. I've got this crazy idea to use your hashtag if give your permission to do a LinkedIn flash mob. Before I even had a chance to ask her what that meant, I said yes, because I just thought it sounded great. And like I said, that inner rebel in me just thought, this sounds like it's fun, it's different, it's innovative, it's action, it's solution focused, let's do it. So she just had this idea to try and bring as many people together as possible on one day as almost like a surprise online using the hashtag. So this was February 23, February 23. And we had about a 10-day turnaround from her having the idea to deciding the 1st of February. And we contacted lots of people that we knew dotted around the globe and said, come online on the 1st of February and shout about that hashtag. The fact that we are so much more than talking about jobs. We had t-shirts made with the hashtag. But we said to other people, there's no rules, just do what you like. People had t-shirts, people had t-shirts on their dogs, people had the message on whiteboards, people had drawn it and were holding it up to the screen, all sorts. It just went crazy. And we did watch this hashtag sort of snake its way around the world, starting from Australia, and then it sort of later in the day into the UK, and then obviously into the evening for us, Canada suddenly woke up and started using the hashtag as well. And it just blew our mind. And Bella and I have said over the last couple of years that what we realize is that well, in fact, no, it was Carolyn Parry actually in the UK in Wales who said you were knocking on an open door. And we realized that's exactly what we were doing. But there were many hundreds, if not thousands, of doors just a little ajar across the world, just waiting for something like this. So little did we know just how much people would, you know, take it on board and really enjoy being part of it. So yeah, so that was the 1st of February 23, and we had hundreds of thousands of hits and people sharing posts and stories and photos. It was just gorgeous. It was wonderful.
I remember it, and I'm still very excited by it. And you're not done. So what's next?
The second year, so that would have been February 24, we can still the same hashtag, but it was a slightly different theme. We were looking at how we are so much more than talking about jobs. And we asked people to share a quote from a client or a customer or a student. that showed the impact that we'd had. So that was the year two, and now we're moving into year three, and we're doing things slightly differently again. Still exactly the same hashtag, but we're asking people to share something that gives a glimpse of behind the scenes of the life of a CDP. So we're leaving it very open because the CDP world have come out in creative force and just taken the hashtag in all sorts of directions. So we're not being prescriptive, but we're saying, yeah, it could be a photograph, it could be a video of themselves talking, it could be like a outline of what they've done that day or whatever. So it's really just everybody's opportunity to share something that shows a glimpse of the behind the scenes of their life as a CDP and how it impacts individual people, the economy, and society. So 3rd of February, it's going to be 2025, and that'll be when it all happens. But we've got lots of, it's very much a global campaign this year. We've got people from all over the world supporting us. We've got some fabulous videos that we're going to be dropping in January in the run up to the campaign of people talking about what why the hashtag, why the campaign is important to them and encouraging people to get involved. So we're really excited about the fact that so many other people are helping us this year.
Just going to repeat the hashtag one more time. So much more than talking about jobs. I'll get you to repeat it as well so it sticks.
Yeah. So it's so much more than talking about jobs. And actually, we've just created, well, a month or so ago, a dedicated group on LinkedIn with the same title. So it is just hashtag so much more than talking about jobs. And I think we're on to about sort of 380 people, I think, are now in that group, which is amazing. So it's a dedicated space for anybody. It's an open invitation for CDPs or professional allies to come and just join that group as a way of sharing, learning, inspiring each other and sharing good practice and celebrating what we're all doing.
I did join the group and
I
I'm
know.
liking the posts that I see. We're going to move on to the work that you do. When I looked you up online, the first thing that popped up are your cards. You created What's Your Strength pack of cards for young people, and then you followed it with another pack for adults. And then you've got one more. The name of it is Let's Get Started pack for young people with special needs, which I think is very important. What can you tell us about the cards?
The cards actually are very much like this podcast in the sense that they encourage storytelling and encourage people to tell their own story. A lot of the work I do is with young people. So the message I often tell young people is that there's nobody better to tell their story than themselves. They're the expert in their own story. They're the main character of their story. So what I wanted to do is to create something that helped to enable people to do that, to tell their story. So in a nutshell, what they do is they're designed to empower people to translate their lived experiences into the skills and qualities that they've got. Because we all have strengths, we all have them, but we often overlook them, particularly when they're just part of who we are. It's just part of our personality, our makeup, or part of our everyday lives. So we don't always spot them. We can spot them in other people, but we can't always spot them, within ourselves. And so what I wanted to do was to create something to help young people to discover it for themselves. I didn't want to just tell them that they were brilliant. I wanted them to have that moment of self-discovery. So the cards themselves do just that. They help them to, they're holding the card in their hands. They turn the card over and it reveals their strengths. And it's like that tangible nature of they're holding their strengths in their hand. It's quite magical actually when you see it in front of your eyes.
Can you tell us about one of the cards or just give us an example about it?
Yeah. The original pack that was aimed at teenagers, and then the later pack that came, the Let's Get Started pack that you mentioned, aimed primarily at young people with additional needs. Now, those two packs have sort of two sets of cards within the pack. So they have green cards that are based on school subjects, and then purple cards, which are based on life experiences, so hobbies, activities, lived experiences, things like that. The difference with the adult pack is that there's no school subjects in there because for a lot of them, school would have been many, many years ago. So with the adult pack, they just have the one set of cards that are all about lived experience. And it's those cards that I like the best, even in the young people's packs, because it's really giving them a chance to look at their lives, their unique life, and translate that experience into something positive, into their strengths. So the card, oh gosh, there's so many things I could tell you about. I mean, I could literally talk about this all evening. Um, but the card that jumps to mind that I'm probably the most proud of is a card that says, I live with a health condition. And so the card itself on one side says just that, I live with a health condition. So, like with any of the cards, you pick the card that is relevant to you. Then when you turn the card over, it says, wow, that means you may have the following skills and qualities. And it has this wonderful list of the types of skills and qualities that you may have from that experience. Now, the reason why that card is so special to me is because it was made in collaboration with a group of young people. So they were being supported by a careers worker within a charity. So it's a charity in the UK called Versus Arthritis. So this is a group of young people who had chronic arthritic conditions, which obviously is quite unusual for young people anyway. And what we did is we ran a focus group with those young people, and they reflected on their experiences of having that chronic health condition and identified the skills that they developed because of that lived experience. So, because of that experience, they'd become excellent problem solvers. They'd had to become self-advocates. They'd had to adapt to different situations. They'd had to have a growth mindset, etc., etc. So they created the list of skills and they reframed their challenges into the strengths that it had helped them to develop. So it's not sort of denying that their lived experience isn't difficult at times because it is, but it's kind of bringing equity to that and saying yes, there's challenges and there's support needs, but actually because of that experience I've got this amazing set of skills and qualities that are different from somebody else, and I have something to offer the world because of that set of skills and qualities. So that's one example of one card, but gosh, there's I could tell you about every single card in the pack.
Well, it's a fabulous story, and I love that you were able to pick out with the help of the students, because I always like to
Mm.
bring the student perspectives in on things. So the cards are for teens, you said. So what ages would it be appropriate for? Would it be okay for elementary or not?
The original pack, the one that's aimed at teenagers, is primarily sort of 14 to 18-year-olds. But I know that there are people who are younger that use them. And my own children are younger than that, and they've been, my QA testers all the way along. And I know primary schools so that would be, trying to think, sort of from age 10, 11 to and above. Um, it's it's just that some of the vocabulary might be too complex. So as long as you've got somebody there to explain, there's no reason why somebody younger couldn't, benefit from them. But they're primarily sort of 14 to 18-year-olds.
Well, I'm all for having someone there with the cards, not just to give them the
Absolutely.
cards and leave them, right? Yeah, we agree on that. Where can people buy these cards? Like, are they available online?
Yeah, so they're on my website. So it's just what's your strength, all one word.co.uk. And I do ship them around the world. So yeah, so I think they're in 17 countries now. Just the odd one dotted about the world, but yeah, they are in 17 different countries. So I will ship them wherever you are. I will send them to you.
That's very cool. I've got one more question about the cards, and because there are so many cards out there, how are your cards different than the other card sorting packs in the career field?
It's a really good question, actually. What I would say is actually, because I am a big fan of using careers cards. Well, obviously, I use my own, but I use lots of others as well. And I think there's a place for all of them because no one pack solves every problem, or not one pack is right for every student. So actually, I love the fact that I interchange What's Your Strength with other card packs, which actually is something that I like to do. But in terms of what makes them different, rather than answering this myself, what I thought might be nice is to hear the perspectives of people who use the cards. So I reached out to a few people who have used Watch Your Strength for many years now to pose your question to them. So would you be happy for me to share what they said?
I love that you took the extra mile for this. Absolutely. Let's hear it.
Well, I just thought, I mean, if I was saying it for myself, obviously I believe in Watch Your Strength and but I didn't want it to sort of feel like I was almost marketing them. I just thought actually I want to hear from people who use them. So yeah, so I reached out to a few people. So I'll just tell you what a few of them. Well, I've got a couple of comments here. So in terms of the, well, I don't know. Are you interested in what people said about the team pack, or let's get started, or the adult pack, or all three?
I work with young people, so let's start with the
We'll
team
go with the
pack.
young people. Perfect. So I reached out to two incredible people. Chris Target, if you're not already connected with him, please follow him on LinkedIn. He's just remarkable and he shares amazing stories about careers impact, and he's so inspiring about the way he does guidance meetings, so you can learn so much from him. So yeah, so Chris Target, and also another incredible practitioner, Hannah, I don't know whether it's Jill or Gill, sorry Hannah, I don't know how to pronounce your surname, from Above and Beyond Careers, and she again does incredible work with all young people, but she does some really inspiring stuff with young people with special needs. But yeah, so I reached out to them, and really interestingly, they both said very similar things. And they both said what they liked was the fact that there's no sort of I don't prescribe how to use them. So actually, there's lots of different uses. And in fact, Chris said, I don't use them the same way each time. That's their strength. So they can be adapted in so many different ways. And he went on to say that the multifaceted and multidimensional format makes them unique and a groundbreaking addition to the career development professionals toolkit. And Hannah went on to say that they're a staple in her career box of tricks and uses them every single day because they're so easy to use. And that was the thing that they both said, is that they're very simple but have a really powerful impact. So it's the simplicity actually that makes them different, and makes them so powerful.
Again, thank you for taking the extra mile and asking others questions. Was there any other one that you wanted to share from the other packs?
Actually, tell you what I'll share is one that who I didn't ask. This was somebody on LinkedIn this week, who shared something without me prompting, but I thought it was a really lovely one. So Jane Allen, who is a vocational rehabilitation counsellor in Australia, her company is called Reframe, and she shared a lovely series of posts this week, looking back on her year. And each post, every day, looked at a different topic and what she'd done this year or things that had gone well this year. And this particular post was about innovative ways of supporting her clients, but particularly using a narrative-based approach, which obviously, I know that you'll like because of your storytelling, and obviously with Watch Your Strength being so much about storytelling, it took my attention, this post. I thought, oh, this is nice. And then what I realized is you'd shared Watch Your Strength on the post, which was lovely. So she'd said that she wanted to showcase lots of different tools that had helped to spark different discussions and facilitated client storytelling. And Watch the Strength was on there, and she said, I've shared these before and I'll share again. So great for all clients, especially those with brain injury, intellectual disability, or anyone who requires support or scaffolding to tell their story to clarify their strengths. So I just thought I loved this idea of it creating scaffolding. That actually, for some people, they might just need that extra bit of help to tell their story, or those prompts, or those visual, aids. And I just think actually, Watch Your Strength cards do help to do that. And yeah, similarly, the other person that had shared about the adult pack, she'd said that she uses them with a whole variety of people. So this was Carol Ann Jones in the UK, and the thing that really just yeah, it put hairs on the back of my neck when she said, where's the quote? What did she say? Said, when they see the list of strengths on the reverse of the card, you almost see them swell with pride. And I just thought, what a beautiful thing to think that, you know, a card pack that
Wow.
was just an
Wow.
idea I had a few years ago is making people all over the world swell with pride. You know, it's incredible.
Wow, what great moments for you. And I'm
Mm.
glad that you were willing to share them with us. They do reflect what the cards are about. Was there anything else you wanted to add about the cards before I move on to the next question?
Actually, I suppose the only thing I would say is in terms of for any sort of theory geeks out there who like to know because I'm a real practitioner at heart, but everything I do is underpinned by theory, like any career professional, and the theory underpinning it is using a strengths-based approach, which comes from positive psychology. So it's coming from a starting point of what someone can do rather than what they can't, and it's using that as the foundation and building from there. And that's really what the essence of the cards are about, is celebrating what somebody can do, not what they can't.
That's perfect. And that I think is important for a lot of us in the career field to know that it was based on theoretical basis. But I'm going to move on to the final question for you, Katherine. You work with young people like I do. And for my young clients, I tell them it's okay to step out of their comfort zone. I learned the word stretch zone just to put
Yeah.
yourself in that stretch zone recently. And do you have anything that you would like to share with us where you're putting yourself in that stretch zone in the upcoming month?
Yeah, it's interesting because again, I was sort of reflecting on sort of challenges gone by, and what has helped me is being courageous. I've mentioned that word a few times today. I'm not necessarily the most confident person in the world, but I have bucket loads of courage, and I will use that courage to try new things with the support of other people around me, like I mentioned earlier. And I know, looking back, that every time I have been courageous and tried something new and nudged into that stretch zone, as you called it, what happens is that my comfort zone becomes bigger. And my confidence then starts to build at the same time. And so I think going forwards, it's going to be doing much of the same, having the courage to do new things and actually do more of this sort of thing. Um, Even up until I'd say a few years ago, I would never in a million years thought that I would come onto something like this and do this or stand up in front of people and run workshops like I do now. But I love it. I absolutely love it. And I really love sharing my passion about this topic and about empowering people. And I'd like to do it more. And I know that every time I do it, I'm just nudging into that stretch zone a little bit more, each time a little bit more. So then my comfort zone becomes much bigger. So I'm going to just keep doing what I've been doing.
This is a perfect message how by stepping up a little bit in our comfort zone expands. I like that. And I appreciate you sharing it and your experience within it.
Hmm.
These were all the questions I had prepared for you today, Katherine. Was there anything else, one more tip, one more idea you wanted to share to wrap up the episode?
I knew you were going to ask this, so I was sort of pondering what else I might want to say. And I think for me, it's that reminder of being kind and compassionate to ourselves and taking that time to reflect on how we've got to where we are, because we are always so busy, all of us, young and old, looking forwards at what we haven't yet achieved, what we haven't done yet. Our to-do lists are ever growing. Whereas actually, if we take a moment's pause to reflect on where we've come from and the strengths that we've shown and the achievements we've made along the way, I just think it's a really important exercise to do that from time to time, because we have more strengths and we've achieved more than I think sometimes we give ourselves credit for. And I think it's important that we just stop, look back, take stock, and celebrate what we've achieved.
I am big on reflection, so I really love this message, and I hope everyone listens to you and take it and try to spend, a few minutes a day reflecting on what you've been accomplishing.
Definitely.
This is it for Hoda's Career Info, the program where career professionals from across the globe join me to empower you to succeed. Our guest today on Hoda's Career Info was Katherine Jennick. You can connect with Katherine on LinkedIn. Katherine reminded us that we have more strengths and we have achieved more than we give ourselves credit for. And it's important that we just stop, look back, take stock, and celebrate what we have achieved. How often do you stop and reflect on your accomplishments? Remember, you can watch Hoda's Career Info on YouTube or listen to the episode on your favorite podcast app. To let me know if you're interested in an opportunity to talk about your work, you can send me a direct message on my website, rightcareerfit.com, where you can also sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date on the latest episode. Please like, subscribe, share, and follow me on social media for more career info. I am your host, Hoda. Until next time, remember, stop, look back, take stock, and celebrate what you have achieved.